Beginning of quarterfinals.
Yep.
Quarterfinals.
Hello, everyone. Going live. We're live now. And hello, everyone, and welcome to League Review. I'm your host, William, and today I just have Ryan,
What's up?
and we are talking quarterfinals for LCS. And this is pretty much it went for the most part how we expected. I believe I said 3-2. I didn't write down the actual series. That's my bad. But we all said Clutch Gaming to beat TSM. We all said CLG to beat Optic, and we were all correct.
It's just some of us were more correct.
Yeah. Listen, I should. I'm still sticking by that. I should absolutely have been correct on the Optic one.
Shoulda, coulda.
We'll talk about
At the end of it,
yeah.
yeah.
We'll talk about that with the match histories.
There'll be plenty of words about that game.
Yes. If you want to lead actually with the TSM Clutch Gaming games, because I was only able to catch the highlights because I was up north. So if you want to do that one, I did. I was able to watch the whole game for CLG versus Optic. Do you?
All right. I kind of can. I'd
Okay.
have to. I want to pull up the match history so I can at least look up like the full comps and everything.
Got it.
But yeah, But yeah, I just remember starting off Clutch TSM. I just know both of these teams kind of opposite trajectories going into the series. TSM definitely on the downswing, Clutch on the upswing. So even though you had a number for TSM, number 5 seed for Clutch, definitely two teams who could people could see a lot of upset potential in this series.
Yeah, I think we were discussing before the podcast. I didn't even consider this an upset, person. Like I thought Clutch Gaming going into playoffs was just the much better team than TSM. TSM losing to the Glacial comp by Team Liquid put me over the edge of saying this team's done. Like, even though that game didn't technically matter in like my head, I was like, or like even listening to like their comms like on the like mic, like not necessarily the mic check, but like just at the end of the game or something like that. It's like, damn, they're taking that game really. It sounded like that, at least they were taking that game really seriously on TSM side, and so like losing that, and then like the whole thing before then, even like I was already doubting them quite a bit, and Clutch Gaming had been, like you said, going way up. So I don't think this was that big of an upset. I don't even think it was an upset at all.
Yeah, I feel like people were still definitely going to be kind of low on Clutch, especially because their Clutch.
That
But the
makes sense.
last time they were even in playoffs, ironically, was in spring last year against TSM in the quarterfinals, and lo and behold, the exact same result. Which I don't know if it was exact same games won by TSM or game rather,
Yeah, but
but
I
yeah.
don't remember.
But there's also the idea that TSM were also 2-0 over Clutch. Clutch had a really bad win rate against playoff teams, and here they are in the playoffs, so they're only playing playoff teams. But
Yeah.
anyway, they do start off just looking at the quick comps for game one. You had Colette Top for Broken Blade, Sejuani going down the list, Akali, and then Zyra Khan for TSM. Whereas you have Huni on Gangplank, then Skarner, Karma, Silver Nautilus. Kind of the thing that stood out to me immediately was the amount of speed on Clutch.
Oh, so
Is
much speed.
I feel like the only thing that could have made it worse is if you had Huni on like Jace. You
Yeah,
just had a
the
Jace gate, so
accelerated gate.
everyone was running around. So there's a lot of kiting, a lot of a lot of peel for the whole team.
And that speed with Skarner is a dream come true for Skarner.
Yeah,
Pop those predator
exactly.
boots and run out. He was running 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, that is it can be pretty key too, because either you could just immediately stuff a Rakan engage, you can just if a collie tries to jump in, you just ult her and just drag her back and kill her before she can even throw down her
Stuffed
shrouds.
a lot of Broken Blade before. Like, they pulled Broken Blade from the front line a
Exactly.
lot before he could get his
Yeah.
ult off. Actually,
Yep.
Broken Kled would have been a great top laner. You get Karma in the support and Jace mid and go Kled top, and there you go.
Just run really fast. But yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of like good speed zoning tools. So TSM, they're looking to use like Rakan, Kled to kind of dive as well, and then Sejuani can kind of follow up. They'll throw something out and then have the others follow. versa. Whereas you have a lot of speed to try to dodge that around, kite back if they ever try to go in, and that's kind of what ended up happening a lot of times in this game. You would have a lot of time. You'd have a lot of times like, let's see, I know like it was around 1930. TSM was actually in mid, and he was kind of baiting it out because the rest of the TSM were in river, seeing what they can get. Lear actually goes in, and then actually goes in and gets sped up by Karma and tries to ult in, but Sven just ults on Zaya, and then all of a sudden Smoothie and everyone just pops out of the bush and tries to engage, but they all miss. Smoothie actually misses his Rakan knockup, and Spica completely whiffs the Sejuani ultimate just wide left, I think. And the clutch just used like the silver speed just back it up. Then like TSM like maybe try to all in engage, but then GP ult comes down. Smooth Hooney's not even in this game in this fight, so it's almost like a complete 5v4. But the GP ultimate just completely zones everyone out, and since Akali, Rakan, Zaya can't really get close, uh, Lear just kind of just goes up, ults, and just they just pull them right back and end up getting 2 kills out of it. So it ends up kind of just being the kind of the tail of the game for both of these two. I will mention is that they did get the counter pick Kled top lane into the GP for TSM,
Didn't work.
but actually made that almost said optic. Clutch actually ended up the NA do right for once, and they just swapped the Karma top lane for the early lane phase into the Kled, so that the Kled can't just get his good matchup into the GP early game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say because I was like, wait. When I was like looking at this match history, I'm like, wait a minute. I just caught up on the highlights like an hour before the podcast for this, and I was like, wait, why was Hootie playing mid lane this game? And I'm like, wait, he's top. But yeah, that makes sense. And then yeah, like you just said, it completely negates the thing for Kled, the advantage, and Karma technically counters Kled, doesn't she? Or like, because she has
Yeah, she
the
has a lot of range and poke.
range and poke, so she can knock him
Yeah,
off Scarl very
yeah,
easily.
yeah. The thing you got to be careful for, it actually almost happened to Demonte, is that if Clay can get on you with like the double charge on the joust, is that he could just stick to you and kill her. And he like barely got out. I think it was like one of the first times in the early lane he actually got onto him and kind of nearly killed him, but the root on on her tether kind of came through and saved him. But if but he actually played it out really well, got Huni to a good spot. Then he kind of went to top lane and with Triforce and was able to just play out the lane so Clay could never get going. Made CSM with Akali and Kled. They can almost look to do like a 4-1 or even a full 1-3-1 to split up this comp from Clutch, who with all this speed and the AoE sort of speed ups from Karma and Sivir using Skarner, they almost always just want to be grouped as a full 5 unit, so they could just kind of find picks and do what they want to do, and that ends up being like the whole game plan for them is that you would have like let's say a Nautilus ult come in from Vulcan, which kind of zone people out, make them back up.
Hmm.
It would not maybe hit one person with a knock up. The speed would get them in to get a person, and then GP ult would come down and just cut off the rest of the team.
Oh
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
TSM could not like actually try to counter engage through it, and then they would just get a pick, and then they would just run a man advantage over the
Yeah,
rest of the
that
map.
that happened like right in the mid lane as well, where they picked up Broken Blade, and then while TSM went into here, then GP ulted here, and it was like, well, here you guys are not getting back to Broken Blade, and then I believe that also happened with Huni, here in the mid lane or on the bot side, by that bot tower as well, where there's like that the barrel into the ult just took so like 80% of
Yeah,
his man's
yeah,
HP.
he nearly just straight up killed him while they were
Yeah,
sieging.
yeah. So
And I
then
will,
instant retreat, instant tower, and yeah, inhib.
yeah, that I feel like what that ends up coming down to is that a lot of times, especially in the early game, because it was actually pretty even, pretty back and forth for the most part, but Clutch just felt like they just out on every single play. Like right in the mid lane, they barely got first blood, and then they got a trade kill back. Um, the Cody Sun, he teleports top lane to try to counter Spica and his gank. That was actually the first time Spica completely whiffed a Sejuani
Ooh,
ultimate.
that was a
He
rough
went,
one
yeah,
too.
yeah. So he teleported top, but now you just left. Okay, so Sven and Smoothie are now Zaya Rakan, and they are able to farm on the bot turret. But then Clutch just say, okay, well now we have our AD carry top lane. Let's just go down to Rift Herald. We're going to take Rift Herald so we have advantage top. Take Rift, and then even though Sven and Smoothie have had the time in bot lane, Vulcan like really outplays a 1v2. It doesn't even die
Nope.
just to say to clear out the wave and zone them off the turret. And then Clutch are able to get the first turret in all the plates topside before TSM can.
Yeah, in that
So they
game,
actually,
Cody just kept up in gold no matter what, even though it was a
yeah,
risky teleport because and the teleport worked as well. So it wasn't even like the teleport was too bad or like didn't get him anything either.
yep. And where you mentioned about the big one that happened in mid lane, that was actually the same one I was thinking of. It was like around 26 minutes. It was right around around the bot tier 2 area. That's when they initially cut. They actually cut off and get a pick off there, and then they rotate immediately to Baron with the man advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But
Splicey stole it.
but then Spica kind of steals the Baron.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of go from getting that big 2-1, that 2-0 fight in the mid lane where TSM tried to use Ven to bait, and they actually got a really clean Baron because they used two mountains. They zoned out the rest of TSM. They even killed Speak on the backside, just got it for free. But then this one, they kind of just try to rush it down too much and neglected Speak just dashing and flashing over the wall on Sejuani, just stealing it himself.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, at that point, they were still able to get 2 kills, or they only got 1 kill after that because Kled was already dead. So that was a big possible throw, but they
yeah,
just
even with the
waited it out.
TSM with the Baron buff and even nearly getting kind of barely behind the fight in bot, they just had too much speed to peel out against the potential assassinations on Cody, and they had enough shields to survive it, so that they just kind of won an team fight in the bot lane, even with the against TSM's Baron buff,
Yeah,
and of course Damate with the Ardent Sensor support and Cody Sun on a full item Sivir
nope.
and a
4
bunch of
items.
shields and a bunch of speed. So that is the one thing TSM had a comp where they could have easily won if they were able to pull off the dives that they needed to. If Cody Sun dies, like there's almost no damage from this aside from maybe the gangplank,
Mm-hmm.
but it's near as much consistent DPS. But Clutch really just came through. They never they never gave Cody a chance to get himself killed, and
One
just
sec.
kind of won the game.
I'm going to call you on Discord because it just started chopping up right there at the end, towards the end of that.
Uh,
So I'm gonna.
that's all right.
It might be the server. Call him back and start voice call. All right, let's see if that works out a little bit better.
All right.
And if not, then we'll just switch. It's currently in US Central, but yeah. So even for that's basically how Clutch did win game number 1. So like,
Yep, and that is that's the main thing too. Is the other big thing coming into this game is Cody Sun, Sivir, watching the big win condition for TSM's Cody Sun did not die this game, which actually made it so that this actually extended. He was now deathless in 6 games.
yep. And then even on to the next game in game number 2, continued his deathless streak. And went 7-0-9 in this game. I did like this was one of them that I was really paying attention on the highlight. Disgusting. Like I thought Huni the Rumble and Kiana ult combo in like tight corridors is so good. The one that I'm really thinking of is right here at basically at exactly 20 minutes where it looked kind of bad at first, I thought, for Clutch Gaming, where they had Vulcan or who was up in the top lane? Huni was up top.
It was let me see. It was Damante was Kiana, and he was trying to hold off on the wave
Oh yeah,
in
sure.
top lane,
Yep.
and it was Bjergsen and Spica actually. They were
And
sieging the turret. Smoothie was roaming up on Braum for try to maybe set up the 3-man diver just to pressure off for the turret.
yeah, and then Vulcan Abyssal Voyaged in, and it didn't seem like a good one at the time because they immediately
directly into
he brought Cody Sun right into the face of Braum Sejuani. That's a massive CC. So it was like really rough start. Huni teleports in, and then he puts his equalizer down like right here If you can see that, yeah, you can see that.
Mm.
So he put it down like right there, and as he puts it down, then Kiana also
No,
ults.
not even before that though. It was actually he puts down the equalizer, so they back up,
Yeah,
and then Lyra hits a stolen Braum ultimate, lines it up in like the exact same way, just a farther north,
I forgot about that part. Yes.
and actually backs them up even more. And then Demonte, who wasn't even in this fight the whole time, he was kind of wrapping around the backside, and he had to come over the wall. And then he flash ulted the like four people on
Yep.
TSM against the
It's
wall.
like the equalizer went like right there, the Brahmalt went right there, and TSM now cannot go in the river at this time. So while this happened, they're going right here. Demonte flash stun. Was it a 4-man stun?
Yeah, it was. He
It was.
barely missed Bjergsen,
Oh
but
man, it
Bjergsen was
was.
still like so chunked by this point. He actually had to run, and I think he clipped like the very end of the Rumble Ultimate, so he started to burn down too.
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah. Meanwhile, by the way, not too many long range people, so the entire time Cody Sun gets ulted in by Vulcan. But he immediately just Sivir ults and kites back. So this entire time, Cody Sun again completely untouched, and he's just Sivir ricocheting through this entire team. Where you have like what your longest range person is Corky.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like the Vayne pick into Sivir too much. I mean,
Yeah, I can
I
understand
know.
like the
Yeah.
1v1 thing, but it's like no,
It
not really.
works in a one v
And then like,
one, but when is
and then
Sivir gonna be in a 1v1, especially with Tom Kench on the team?
yeah,
Tom Kench is always gonna be with
exactly.
Sivir.
Yeah, and to be fair, in lane, I guess of all the AD carries that you could pick to go against the Tom Kench, um, Vayne is pretty good because she could just kind of shred his health down really fast with the silver bolts.
Yeah, and I just,
That's about it.
yeah, it's again they brought in the Kled and the Sejuani and just like the team comp is still a good team comp. It's just like you said, the range issue. They had a significant range issue, and they have to get close, which is what Rumble wants as well for his ult. Like
Mm.
he's
Oh
gonna
yeah,
equalize you perfectly, and then
yeah.
so many good ults with Braum, Sejuani, and even Kled really for Lyra to steal. So that multiple ones there.
Yeah,
Demonte's
and we got to
Kiana was
yeah.
amazing as well.
Oh yeah, and you got to we got to give credit to Lyra too. For a lot of times, people have kind of ragged on him. Like
Me,
you can't
me,
like
absolutely.
yeah. No, everyone has, not just you, but it's one of those things where you could have a lot of ults to steal as a Silas, but he used them like perfectly. He had
Oh
really
yeah,
great uses of the stolen ultimates and knew like exactly how to use them. The team looked really coordinated that way. I did want to make a quick mention because it's something that I make a weird notes for was that there was actually a grasp rumble for Hooney versus the Kled.
I did not notice that when I was
Yeah,
watching.
he was going full in on trades to sustain the lane phase against the Kled, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I just
And then it's actually Klepto Corky into the Kiana, so like the range versus melee matchup. And
that makes sense. I
yeah,
don't know if
he
I
was
agree
actually.
with the grasp rumble. I mean, it worked, but like,
I mean, as a C9 fan, it kind of gave me flashbacks to like Ray when he was playing TSM, ironically, and he accidentally took Fervor of Battle on Rumble, and they won, and they still won. But
hey, gotta
yeah,
get that
at
extra
one
attack
point in
speed.
12 minutes, about 12 minutes of the game, Bjergsen was actually 1,200 gold above Demonte
Yeah,
in the
just
lane, just from because of the klepto difference. But again, it did feel like a lot of because TSM were making some pretty decent plays, especially in they actually had a point where they were trying to make like a 4-man play in mid using Sven to TP into a ward in the river, but they didn't really get anything out of it. I think they were trying to get onto Lyra, but he just kind of kited it backwards. But Spico still wasn't level 6 on the Sejuani, so he couldn't like ult and just kind of burst him down because Infernal was going to spawn up. So, but then they really just didn't get anything out of it. It felt like really weird timing. Like they were like it has some good ideas, just like not the best execution, which I feel like that's kind of the story of TSM for almost this whole series. They had some good ideas, but execution just was either lacking or they just kind of got outplayed in a lot of cases by Clutch.
yeah. I thought that yeah, Clutch just played out of their mind. They've basically been playing out of their minds for quite a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
now, though. Like this
Yeah.
is Clutch. I can't say that they super like scare me, in that for as a Team Liquid fan. But they scared me more than TSM did. That sounds weird, but like I TSM losing helped Team Liquid a lot because it basically put them in worlds, like except for like this insane scenario. Like there's like one scenario left that Team Liquid doesn't make worlds in. Like if you
Team
had,
Liquid literally had to revert back to the fourth meme in
yeah,
order to miss
and
worlds.
not only that, they also have to have C9 lose in second place to Clutch Gaming to win. Like they have to have Clutch Gaming has to win the whole thing. C9 has to get second. Team Liquid has to lose to Clutch Gaming and lose to
Exactly.
CLG. Like there's so many like things that
They have,
have to
they
happen.
have to lose to CG and CLG
Yeah, exactly.
and
And
never
and
play
then
Cloud9.
and then losing the final game of the gauntlet as well. Like so it's like that it's probably sealed Team Liquid up for Worlds, which wouldn't have happened if TSM made it. But I just feel like Clutch Gaming's hot right now, and I feel like with
Oh yeah.
just the way that Cody Sun and Vulcan are playing, I think that I'm worried that if they face off against Doublelift and Core JJ, they might not look the same in that sense because
Mhm.
Doublelift has always had Cody Sun's number since I can remember, and so in Huni, who also has had a fantastic turnaround this split, like in the late split. He's back. He's back. like he's not maybe as
And this is I want to say this is like the first actual like playoff round game that like series that Hooney's actually won. I'd have to look into the specifics. Like I know like I'm pretty sure they won like the third place match in spring when he was on Echo Fox last spring, but I don't think he's ever actually won a playoff series for that because I know that that was like kind of a big meme in North America was Hooney always falling short in playoffs every time. And that was like back when like Echo Fox were around number one in spring, and they still lost in semifinals.
yeah. They like yeah. He's always struggled. Like now that you say that, they like even that Immortal team didn't make or they made playoffs, but they didn't win playoffs, right? The one that went like undefeated in the regular
Mm-hmm.
season. Yeah, and
Yeah,
just like every single time, he's always
yeah,
failed.
yeah. But I do feel like he is looking a lot better, like a lot more on form. Like I said, Lyra is looking a lot more closer to like NV Lyra than he has in a long time. Demonte is making so that Tanner time is not just a meme anymore. Cody's son and just looks like he's just really enabled on this team. Vulcan's actually really starting to step up and be a little bit more consistent. Still having some moments, but like especially like if you're talking just in terms of this game, his Tom Kench was actually like pretty legit. Like he had some really heads up plays. Like the Devourer top side, like even though he went in and it looked really bad, he got like Braum bolted immediately after he got out. Cody was able to get out. He was no danger, and he never and Vulcan never even died. Like he still stayed alive. And in game one, you had the defense of the turret to stall Sven and Smoothie 1v2 while his team got Rift Herald and the entire top turret and first turret gold. And he didn't die. Um,
I just
yeah, in this
it's
game too, like there's a lot of engages they try to do with like Kled ult and Sejuani ultimate. Right after they ended up getting the massive Baron on spawn for the second game in a row, by the way, at like 20 minutes. They
yeah.
got Baron on spawn two
Yeah,
games in a
well,
row.
both games in a row, they won a big team fight
Mhm.
right at 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Yep, and then right
Shame
after
on
that,
TSM.
like TSM eventually they tried to look for like a Kled Sejuani engage, but Vulcan just like he just tanked it. They try to find Cody. He just ate Cody, spit him out behind him, tanked the whole thing. They peeled everything back, and then surprise, you're in the jungle versus Kiana. Kiana just ults the wall and actually hits like a long range Kiana stun
Yep.
onto Smoothie, and then they just chase him down and get two more kills.
Yep. And then at that point in the game, it was pretty much over. like,
Yep. They
like
try
um,
one more time. Vulcan, they actually catch Hooney in the jungle around Baron. Like they're trying to set up around Baron again. And they actually catch Hooney out. Hooney had a clutch stopwatch, no pun intended. And but right afterwards, like Vulcan times the Devour perfectly. So like right as Hooney comes out of watch, he just devours and spits him out. And Hooney was like right on the verge of death, and that ended up being key because now he's alive and he could just rumble ult in the fight, and then clutch again, just take a huge fight.
mhm.
Rumble Kiana ultimate, and then Broken Blade is like trying to one trying to goes in 1v3 on Kled because he's trying to charge in, but now you have these two AoE ultimates that just split off the entire rest of TSM, so he just dies.
Yep.
No, it was a good play, but he had no follow up, and that's just really good play from Clutch.
Exactly.
Also, Cody's son Deathless Streak extends to 7 after this game, and I also looked this up. Apparently, this out of those 7 games that he went deathless, he played 5 of them on Sivir,
I
and
love Silver.
now yeah, and he actually ended this game with a KDA of 65
Nice. That's
on Sivir. He's like in HOV.
NHOV. Oh man.
Speaking of that though, all
That
good
that's
things
the
must come to
yep.
an end.
Game number 3. Cody-san died. His first death was in a pentakill for Sven. Obviously, you can't get the pentakill without killing the entire team.
Yeah.
Is it possible, like, if you get early enough pentakill, is it possible, like, say it's like on an invade, so like 1 minute, 1 second respawn timers, and you kill the top laner, you kill the jungler, you kill the mid laner, the top laner teleports back in. Can you technically get a pentakill off not the whole team?
I don't think. I think it doesn't count if someone who died is already respawned. I'd have
Does
to look at the
Yeah,
specifics though.
I want to know now. Like it's such a rare scenario, but that would definitely be possible because of the 1 second death timer. Like,
Like, is it possible to get a? Is it possible to get a double pentakill where they spawn and then they all teleport back in and all die? But
interesting.
yeah, I thought this one was actually different, especially in terms of game 3, in terms of draft. It looked like TSM almost had like a salty run back of the game 1 draft, but
Yeah,
they actually picked up the Aatrox,
yeah,
which was banned in game 1. They picked it over the Kled. Huni goes Azir top lane. So I thought like
yeah.
this was actually, yeah, this was a departure too from Clutch too, because instead of having like these big AoE team fight zone ultimates like from the Rumble and from the Gangplank that was successful on, Azir he can zone a lot more, but like the ultimate is almost like much more mechanically intensive. It's all about, instead of zoning people away, it's about kind of pushing people back in. So it's definitely a little bit more different of a comp. This is like 2015 Worlds meta where it's Tristana Azir.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
just I didn't
yeah,
like the pick. Like to be honest,
yeah.
I just thought that you had a good thing going with, like you said, like these AOE, like Hooney's Rumble, which was banned, and Gangplank also banned. But like,
The TSM special. Let's ban out Huni.
yeah, so it made sense that
Mhm.
there's other options in top lane outside of Azir. Once those two get
Mhm.
banned, Karma also banned, but I don't think Karma was banned
Yeah.
after, like in the second round.
Yeah. But I
So
think I will say this though, like I'll say with the way this game went, especially when you started getting into multi-man team fights, the amount of peeling from the team that was on Clutch's comp in game 1, the speed, like just from the Karma alone, the AoE shield and speed from Karma was sorely missed because there's so many times where it felt like they needed that extra shield, that extra speed, and they to actually take over some of these team fights. And when they didn't have it, to stuff a lot of like the run at you real fast engage from like the Kled. When they didn't have that, TSM just felt like they were a lot more freed up in fights. And then that with the lack of an AoE ultimate to make it harder for TSM to kind of just dive in on you with like Aatrox, Sejuani, and Akali and Rakan while Sven just kind of does his thing. It just felt like Clutch. They had a winning strategy, and it was kind of like we're gonna hold 4-1 and like Sivir and Azir wave clear, while Tristana just like just destroys your base, just like goes full Tryndamere and just doesn't never groups for the team. And I will say Demonte actually did have a really sick play where where they were fighting around where they actually were fighting around the dragon pit, and he actually sees Bjergsen go in, and he actually rocket jumps beside Bjergsen, like I guess as a shout out to Cody's son, and he ults Bjergsen into his own team, but Skarner hits the alley oop perfectly.
oh, it
Lyra
didn't work.
ults Bjergsen immediately because he actually ults Bjergsen as Bjergsen used the Shuriken flip, so he kind of backs up further away from Demonte,
Yeah,
so
so
that
just like way
so he
back.
backs up further away. Then the Buster Shot pushed him that much further, right into Skarner range. So Skarner ults him, but if Lyra wasn't on point again, if he wasn't on point with that ultimate, Brixton could have just went right back on the Shuriken flip and killed Demonte.
Yeah, yeah. So it was definitely really clutch
Nope.
teamwork.
Yeah, pun intended on that one.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's I
So
just
I did want to shout out some of the bans for Clutch this series though. 3 games in a row of Yumi Ezreal Sona bans.
yeah, don't deal with that.
Thank you, please get that out of my game.
Yeah, you don't
Um,
want to deal
I,
with it.
I I will say though, the Clutch actually did, if I recall right, like they actually did have a pretty decent lead in this game. Despite this, they're kind of just playing like
Mm,
wait. They had a decent wait,
1K,
like
1K.
yeah, like they were actually up, which
Yeah,
is surprising considering the comps. But he actually, and then you had like the bot lane duo of Zyra Rakan, which is always going to be pretty strong. But they actually were seemed like they were in pretty decent enough control. They actually just kind of letting Demonte go off and do PVE while TSM tried to do PvP.
yeah.
They actually do off Spica like in the jungle, and they actually turn to start and kind of do like the Baron on spawn again. But I think it was actually a much later Baron that would have been normal compared to the rest of the series. But I think like the issue this was it was just Clutch. It was less TSM just like executing really well, and Clutch just really like not playing the fight correctly. They go to turn and they just turn direct, like almost entirely onto Bjergsen. But then Bjergsen, like before he dies, he actually chunks the crap out of almost all of Clutch just with his burst damage. And then they have no health bars and not enough damage or hard CC enough now to either like threaten Sven away, and Sven is like completely full health. So he
Yeah, so
proceeds
he
to
just
just completely free
walks
fire.
in.
He just free fires on all the enemy team while Broken Blade just runs around on H and basically just kites him and lets him free fire, and he just gets a pentakill because
And
yeah,
then, and basically at that point, the game was
yeah,
pretty much over. They took the Baron, they took a bunch of towers, and then
yeah,
like off that Baron push, there it was like no hope for for Clutch.
yeah.
And then they won the next fight and won the game. But the hope came back though for game number 4, and Cody Sun on the
Oh man.
Kaisa popping off. Even though Sven had the Sivir, which I think Sivir is a very good matchup for Kaisa because
Mm-hmm.
you can shove her under a tower pretty much the entire game, and she can't really do much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you get the free like just push them in, create a ton of pressure early, which Sivir doesn't usually create too much pressure early in my opinion. Like she has the wave clear, but it takes up so much mana or until you get that first essence reaver, and
Yep.
it's not necessarily worth it. But because of Kaisa's such massively short range, that she can just free or Sivir can free fire, and anytime Kaisa goes up, you can just instant boomerang her, and she either has to use her E, which then is on like a 15-second cooldown,
Yeah.
or then
It,
just get hit.
yep. And TSM actually took the Braum for themselves as well.
Yes.
So that even like you would normally see maybe something like a Kaisa Braum where like okay, well we're playing against Sivir, well Braum can kind of just put his shield up and stop the Sivir wave clear like immediately if you ever try to trade.
Hmm.
You throw down Qs or something like that. But they took Nautilus, I guess, just kind of generally going for a more scaling advantage. I thought it was actually interesting, and I didn't mention this, is that TSM actually directly picked themselves the Vlad Rumble matchup. They actually put
Yeah.
Broken Blade on Vladimir when Rumble was already showing for Huni. And
Yeah.
then they also picked the Jarvan jungle, and then, like you said, they picked Sivir ADC, which, as a C9 fan, was really ironic because this is the exact same thing that C9 did
Look at that.
for when they played TSM the second time in the second round robin.
Yeah. And I
They
think
picked a Vladimir, and then TSM flexed the Rumble into mid lane, but they also had a Jarvan jungle and Sivir ADC.
and TSM blew. That was a game that TSM blew massively. But I did want to say that I didn't like the Jarvan pick essentially because like Spica or how do you
Spica.
Spica?
Yeah, Spica.
Spica sounds cooler in my opinion. But Spica. He had played 3 games of Sejuani. I know it's boring, but like
Yeah.
just keep him on Sejuani. I think Sejuani is a better tank jungler than Jarvan. It has the I don't want to say it has easier engage because Jarvan's flash QE is or
Mm.
EQ. Is it
I
QE
couldn't
or
look. I can't.
EQ?
Yeah, it's
EQ.
EQ,
Yeah, EQ.
flag and drag.
Yeah, flag and drag.
Yeah,
That's more, I guess, consistent, but that's only
yeah,
once every 5 minutes.
yeah. To be fair,
Where,
I would say if you're going for like full team fight, though, I agree. Sejuani does give you that extra front line. You have the glacial synergy with Braum in this case.
hmm
But I feel like if you want to talk about like full lock, like sort of lockdown, like AOE team fight, the Jarvan, Vladimir, Corki, Sivir, and even Braum to an extent is actually pretty legit.
hmm
Um, I will say though, I can't, see, I don't know what I can't remember the bans offhand. I think they did ban it in game one from Clutch, but I think they'd actually Jarvan was the champion that Spica first played when he played for TSM back in week 9
hmm
versus FlyQuest. That was
Oh,
like the game where he actually had like pretty
the
decent
the
pop off.
the
He had
Baron
there were
steal.
he had the blue buff steal and then the Baron steal to end the game. So like this, I feel like this is probably like trying to put him on comfort when it was available, and I
Got
can
it.
definitely see the reason why it works. But like I feel like the issue is that they picked it into Rek'Sai,
Yeah, that's
and,
also.
and apparently you can't do that sometimes.
It's not as bad this split as it was last split. Last split was where it was. What? It went on like a 20 game
Yeah,
losing streak or something like that last
yeah.
split. It's been much better this split, but it's still not a positive matchup. Like
Mm.
it's Rek'Sai still destroys it early, and then
Yeah.
anytime you go into the pit with Rek'Sai, Rek'Sai like, okay, now I can just get my AOE knockup is about as big as this
Mm.
pit. You cannot dodge it.
Yeah. I will say the other thing too is that imagine if they let Clutch have Jarvan with this comp.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be kind of rough.
that
Uh,
is true.
especially with like Kaisa
That's so
just like
much
the
CC.
a lot of dive,
Yeah,
and
a
then
lot
Huni
of lot of
just
CC, a lot of
Huni just
dive.
drops a rumble ult on him,
So
and then
I get in that sense. You're right.
yeah, a little bit of a denial. And he did do pretty decently, especially in the early game.
Yeah,
Just kind
the
of
game was close for
keeping
the
things
most
go.
like the first 19 minutes. It's always these 20 minutes. This time the 20 minutes they didn't lose the Baron for TSM, but they
Mm.
did still give up 4 kills and like they lost Cloud Drake, which isn't bad, but that was when Cody Sun
Mm.
just popped off. Cody Sun again 10-0-6. He only died one time in this series, and he's only died what was that
Mm.
one time in the last 9 games now? Then like that's
Twice because he died
well
twice in the
he died
yeah he died twice in
in one
in
game.
game
Yeah,
3.
yeah,
Yeah.
twice, 2 deaths in one of the last
Yeah.
9 games.
I mean, it's one of those things where if he only died once, his KDA is not affected.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's the real tragedy.
Two just cuts the KD in half. It's brutal. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I did feel like yeah, it definitely felt like TSM were kind of gaining a bit more momentum, especially in this game. And it did feel like Clutch did almost kind of play themselves. They kind of did what TSM were kind of doing up until that point. Because there's that one point where Clutch actually like try to chase onto TSM, but like Bjergsen just uses like the mini equalizer from the package and Valkyrie's away. So like him and Sven are fine. Then like Vlad ult comes down, so now they're standing on a mini equalizer with the Vlad amp damage, and then 280 carries just poking them.
yeah, yeah,
And then they all just end up getting killed because of it.
yeah.
But Clutch actually like case in point, like Svika's able to get a lot of decent engages early. They able to get some fights. Lyra does get like the clutch knock up in the around Dragonside River that lets Cody Sun
Yep,
ult in.
teleport in. Yep, or
So they
ult
and they
in.
end up getting he lets some ult in and pick up some kills on the Kaisa. So that's both kudos to Lyra for finding the play and then on Cody for
Following it up.
playing like a beast because it's so easy to just be if he was a real KDA player he doesn't do that.
Oh yeah,
He just plays it safe and just kind of does whatever. But he shows that he knows what he's doing on these champions. But they do kind of slow it down, and they do actually kind of go for like a more 1-3-1 controlled style, which is actually pretty decent because like Vlad can never really answer the Rumble. Rumble always kind of has that push advantage, and Vlad can't really all in on him. And then Demonte on Silas, he was actually almost constantly pushing top wave, and Bjergsen like he kind of wants to support the team and be ready to collapse if he needs to, but he always felt like he was slower to answer the push. So even though TSM were kind of finding some early headway in the game, Clutch were like just controlling the map a lot better. Like
Yeah,
they were always pushed up. Like they were always pushed up, always keeping vision up in the enemy jungle.
you could tell that by TSM's only 3 towers in this game. Even though the game
Yeah.
was relatively close, they didn't. They broke through 2 in the mid lane. They never even got the first outer tower
Mhm.
in the bot lane. They had no controlled map.
Yep. They do actually find some decent pushback as well because with Clutch when they do eventually when they get the Baron, they Sven is able to get some good ricochet and he like chunks Cody to half health with just like a couple
Yep.
ricochet
Those
autos.
crits, those crits on those
So
ricochets are disgusting.
good guy Vulcan and Lyra just kind of sacrifice themselves so that all the carries can get out. Um, but they kind of just go in. Eventually, they end up posturing around mid lane. Demonte, I think, was actually super key. Was that he actually steals a Vladimir ultimate in like the last
Yes,
team fight,
yes.
which was super nuts because then he basically kind of hook. I know he I can't remember if it's abscond or abduct. I think it's abduct. If he abducts in on Silas and then he ults three people, and then Rumble ult from Hooney just comes down, and then they just all just get chunked to nothing.
That's so much AoE. Rumble ult plus Vlad ult plus then just Cody Sun ulted in and just finished off all the low health bars pretty much.
Yeah, they
And
just
that
kind of
was
take
that.
it off,
Yep.
and the Cody Sun deathless streak is back up.
Back up to one game streak.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it's gonna last against Team Liquid, but
I imagine if it does, but
and,
yeah,
eh,
overall, TSM they did have some signs of life. It's Sven especially, like Sven and Smoothie, they both actually stepped up a lot. How much that was about the possible threat, the quote threat of tactical intrigues being the subs for TSM going into playoffs,
mm-hmm.
kind of lighting a fire under them, saying, "Hey, we step up and do something." But and it did feel like TSM were trying a lot. It did feel like they had some decent proactive moves. But either like in game one where it's like, okay, Sven, he's gonna bait. Oh, Lear the bait, he's going in. Sven just ults on Zaya, and then they have like, oh, here comes Sedge ult, here comes Rakan engage. Like, but then they just miss everything.
Yeah,
So
it was sloppy
yeah,
execution. Is basically what.
yeah, and it did come down to like even in game three where Clutch did seem to have a bit more to still have control of the game. It kind of just came down to, well, they had a pick on the jungler, they have much the Baron dead to rights, but then they just misengage the turn and and they just get picked off because of it, and then Sven gets a penna, and then TSM just take full control of the game.
Yeah.
And even in this last game, TSM did have some headway. They'd have a pretty decent lead early, but Clutch, kudos to them. They still they were making good plays. They're controlling the map a lot better. And if you took off nameplates, man, you would feel like the TSM was Clutch this game. You could have told people like that and say, "Oh man, TSM playoff is online," but no, Clutch just looked really solid.
Mm-hmm.
They looked really cohesive as a team. All of their players stepped up. Not really one of them even looked like a weak link. And Cody Sun is looking like a top two carry. Like he's number three. He was voted number three in the third in the all pro teams this year.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So,
Well
and I feel
deserved.
like if he keeps this up, it's an argument that he's possibly up there with
Mm.
possibly even going beyond that. I mean, I mean, he has the potential to face the other two all pro 80 carries.
Yep, yep. So
Playoff.
we'll be able to see how he does against the number one AD carry, and it's been bad for him.
Spoiler alert.
History has not
Spoiler.
been kind to him in that sense. But
But
let's
hey,
talk about the. Oh, did you one more
no,
thing? Or,
I was just gonna say, man, history is written by the winners.
yep, exactly.
Cody has his chance to rewrite history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the number two ADC, and his team is CLG versus Optic. In this first game, whew, it was a game.
Oh my god.
It starts. I love how this looks on the graph still. That it looks like Optic gets the Baron before 20 minutes. They got it pretty much. So let's just skip ahead. The first part of the game, okay. Optic was kind of in control. One kill. They got the Rift Herald. One tower. One tower. Not too much. Or no, they didn't get the Rift Herald. I apologize. They got the Infernal Drake. But uh, yeah. This is where they take the Baron, the very first Baron at 20 minutes, pretty much. and you're like, oh wow, that's good by Optic. The Optic's gonna turn this game around. They got 3 towers on that. They got another Infernal, so they have double Infernal with a massive damage of Corki and Ezreal. I was gonna say Azir, but that's on Power of Evil. Then they win a team fight, 2 for 1, very good. Go get another Baron. That's your second Baron. Now you should be able to pretty much close the game out with your second Baron, and you've already taken multiple towers. You cleared out all of the inner or outer towers in the last push. Now you can clear out all the inners and try and hit some Nexus towers or inhib towers as well. They don't. They just clear
Mhm.
out all. Did they clear out all the inners at that point? 30, 23, 20. No, they only cleared out 2 of the inners at that point. And they actually did. This is the Baron push that they did get the inhib tower right here on the top side. So that was good by them at least. They broke the base. That was important. They broke the base.
Mhm.
Then they get the third Baron. Nothing happens. In between that, nothing happens. So they get a third Baron. Okay, third Baron. You close the game out. You make it like now that their base is already exposed on the top side. Someone pushes top, take the inhib. No big deal. And then someone else break down the others, and they did successfully until they died. They lost 2 people by just overextending a little too long in the base. But at the time, they had taken the base, the inhibs. Like, they got all 3.
Mhm.
So they had 3 inhibs down.
I almost want to chime in on that
Yeah,
just a
go ahead.
little bit too, because this is where around when Optic gets their fourth Baron,
Hmm.
we're 40+ minutes into the game, by the
Four
way,
barons, yep.
and there's a lead and 4 Barons for Optic, but the gold is dead even.
Yep, because they had only
So
had 3 kills on the entire
exactly.
game.
And concerning Optic's comp, which I'll touch on a bit more as well, when you're talking about like all of this team fight power, double 80 carry, and even like a bar to kind of set up like, oh, we're gonna set up the engage, we're gonna freeze you in place, and then set you up for Poppy Jarfin to just go in on you immediately. They do anything to try to force the
No, they
issue.
didn't.
They made yeah, they just literally just let CLG with Sivir and Azir just wave clear the whole
Yeah.
game.
Yep, they didn't. They didn't.
And
They didn't pressure those 2 at all. They're like,
and
"Oh, you can wave
and when you
clear.
talk,
It's okay."
yeah, and when you talk about Optic doing the thing where they're eventually able to get top and mid inhib, but CLG end up getting 2 kills. They they actually had Big split pushing in the top lane. Big was the one who took the top inhib turret by himself, and you had like Crown in the bot side. They were basically doing a 1-3-1 with Big in the top, Crown in bot, and the rest in mid. And then but then CLG is like, okay, Arrow's a little too far forward. They just all just run at and dogpile and kill him. And eventually, Big is able to kill the top inhib, but eventually they kill him too. And then, ah, but man, it just gets.
They
But it's
didn't
like,
do anything. They didn't
yeah,
do
but it's one of the things.
anything.
Yeah, it's one of the things where Optic, it's like, okay, well, we can kind of accept this. Okay, they both are 2 guys, but we still have a Corky. We still have Jarvan and Poppy. We still have Jungle up, something sneaky, and we got 2 inhibs. Okay, so it's like, okay, we're kind of set up now. You can kind of accept that because you finally broke the base against double like super wave clear, and you can kind of just play the war of attrition now. But oh my god,
Yeah, and they even took the Elder away as well when
yeah,
they lost, and they took the Elder away, but then they just lost that next team fight because Arrow kept getting picked over and over
yeah.
and over again.
Oh my goodness. No, trust me. Arrow was a big offender in this one. I have a long series of notes on this last thing because Optic actually do end up getting like the second Elder, and this is an Elder buff that
Hmm.
has two Infernal Drakes
Yeah,
and 2 Mountains.
so you should not
There's
lose.
no like it. So you're talking about a 4 buff Elder and
Hmm.
2 of them being Infernals,
Yeah.
and you have double 80 carries, including one of them being a Corky and a full item Ezreal. He had a Luden's Echo. He sold the Ludens for a Zonia's after he got picked off, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. Essentially, the only way they lose this game because CLG only draft Rek'Sai is pretty much their only engage this game. Like you have a Braum who can hit a Q and can go in, and maybe they can get a knock up into a stun, and that's it. but you're trying to do that against an Ezreal who has dashes and flash now Azonias. Wiggly just goes in on him. He goes above the he goes beyond like the raptor wall on blue side. Hits him, ults onto him as Arrow tries to shift backwards, and then Arrow never hits Zonia's and just dies.
Yeah, he just
Just dies straight up. Zonia's I think his
even built a
flash might have been
Zonius
down.
on Ezreal. That's an uncommon item.
Yeah,
Like,
but that's how late game we are. Like
yeah,
he's just using like the armor against a Rek'Sai, who's like the only person who can dive him, and the ricochets that can probably hit him. Some of the AP scaling that he gets, and he gets the stasis because I mean he literally had full items. He didn't have a Quicksilver sash. He didn't have anything like that. He never uses it. Dies. Big throws his ult out on Bard, but misses everybody.
yep, I saw that.
Literally just straight up whiffs everyone. Then
Listen.
Doke.
Sometimes the best players in the world have
No, I
chance.
no. Trust me, I didn't have to mean him that because guess what, man, he tried.
You do try.
But no, because I have bigger issues. Dokla then TP's on a ward directly into the lane against the three people that just dogpiled and killed Ezreal.
So
But
bad.
this is but that's not just bad. But the worst part is that Meteos actually EQs through on Jarvan. So it's like, okay, well, he looks like he's going to be trying to join in to help him out. Maybe Poppy and them can kind of stall for a bit, let Crown do his thing because we'll get to him in a bit. But then Meteos does that and then he just walks away.
Yeah.
He just walks away back into the river, so Dokla is just left out and dies.
Yep. Now
And then
all of a sudden,
Crown in the meantime is pretty much by himself. Like it's just big, and Meteos is off somewhere else. Crown is completely by himself. He's split pushing the bot lane inhib. PoE TP's down to try to like contest him in the base. Crown instead of backing up and like either basing or teleporting back to his base, since he only has two teammates alive at 40 plus minutes,
yeah. So
he
that
stays
time of
in.
like a minute each.
Yeah, he takes the inhib, backs up, then goes back in to hit minions like he's gonna push in the wave. But then, oh yeah, by the way, Power of Evil's right there. Biofrost and Ruven are coming down, and then Stixay and Wiggly just run it down mid.
Yep.
They take the mid tier 2 at 46 plus minutes.
Yep.
Mid tier 2, they run it down tier 2, tier 3, inhib, and then they just run it all the way down the base because eventually Crown just dies.
Yeah.
Meteos and Big can't defend.
Yeah.
I literally checked. I had to watch it back.
So bad.
The mid tier 2. They took the mid tier 1, which was their last turret, at 2830. They took the mid tier 2 at 4540.
Yeah, they didn't. They get a tower for 20
17
minutes. Yeah,
minutes.
pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
And then wait, just for context, the game was over at 46-17.
Yeah, exactly.
The game ended less than a minute later
Yep.
than that.
40
Off the
seconds
back of
after that.
this.
It's just.
And that comes down to, okay, CLG didn't have much. Like they went for more scaling options. Even Ruin went Klepto on Jace, and then he went for the more 1v1 build. He built Cleaver into Last Whisper first, and then started going into lethality, into the Poppy, which I guess I can understand because lethality is not going to do you much against Poppy in the lane. But it felt like CLG just went almost full scale, and just felt like to hold off. And CLG were kind of just fine to do it, and they were almost vindicated in playing that way because Optic didn't do anything proactive
No.
with how they should have been trying to force the
They
issue
took
a
4
lot
Barons
more.
and didn't do anything with them.
Yeah, they try to just play this slow push
Like they
against
played
them.
the slowest game possible. This was very frustrating as I had Optic winning game, and I knew the second this game ended and CLG won that Optic was gonna get 3-0'd. I knew it
Yeah.
at the very moment this happened. I knew it was a 3-0 for CLG, and like even though I think if Optic takes this game, that they have a legit shot in this series, and like because they're full of confidence, because they were essentially like we just said, it was like 17 minutes from the last time CLG was relevant on the map, It took
Mhm.
17 minutes for them to get back to relevancy, and Optic just did nothing in that. They took Barons, which is usually good,
Yeah.
but
And when you have double mountain and double AD carry, you can kind of understand why. And then you even have like a Jarvan flag to boost your attack speed for the
yep,
Baron take.
yeah. So
So
you should be
there's no
taking
reason you
tower. You should
shouldn't.
be forcing towers immediately.
Yeah, and they
Like,
never did.
yeah, you literally can take a tower in
But
less than 2 seconds with a double mountain Corki Ezreal.
double mountain
And
Corki,
Ezreal half healths the tower by himself with his W.
yeah, you're talking
Like,
about double spell blade passives, double mountains. Like you, if they try anything, throw a bard ult down on them,
yeah,
and then just take the tower or or turn the tower off and then dive. Like but I feel like the issue with this one is because that last fight and like just the general lack of proactivity was one thing, but there are issues from Optic for this entire game.
yeah,
They had a good play topside because CLG were trying to get Rift Herald, use like the topside advantage that they had a little bit. Like they had like Azir and Jace could kind of just push in a little bit to go and challenge that. But Ruin just like trying to zone out Dokla and Meteos by himself, and then they just Jarvan ult just comes down. Poppy charges him into the Jarvan wall and just kills him. So it kills him. CLG do get the Rift Herald, but Optic do get first blood. So it's like, okay, you're kind of set up now because now Poppy can kind of half run this. But then Optic just completely goof a bot lane that they try because Bard ult they do dodge out on the Bard ult initially because they're like they Sivir ult backwards to try to just get some speed to try to dodge a Bard ult that's coming down because Meteos is pathing down as well. So you imagine Bard ult into Jarvan EQ, and that bot lane could get blown open from there. But so they dodge that, but they're still going for the play. But while they're retreating, Stixxay actually ricochets and boomerang blades down the entire minion wave. So now Optic are kind of like half waiting for the next wave to come in, but Meteos actually still goes in and ults them both under tower. But because there's no wave, Big and Arrow can't actually follow up. Big actually almost dies to tower aggro, and has to back up. So they kind of botch this out, and they don't. And I don't think they actually end up killing anybody. CLG does, but in that meantime, Wiggly just pops the Rift Herald top lane.
they got the
Absorb.
first tower off of that.
Yeah, he actually absorbs like a bunch of plates, and then TP's bot lane just to stop them from because I think because the Poppy all they try to TP bot lane to stop the play, but then Doka also TP's bot. Like he doesn't stop. He doesn't stay to stop the Rift Herald. Like Wiggly's gonna like he's afraid Wiggly's gonna 1v1 him if he does.
Yeah,
He actually keeps bot lane for no reason and then just gives up the first turret.
yeah. I mean, that was just the beginning of like they should. I still think they really should have won this game with four
Oh
Barons. They
yeah,
should have.
I mean let's not talk about freaking Crown. He got caught multiple times this game.
Yep, yep.
He
Crown
was in
and
bot.
Arrow.
Yeah, he was in like the bot. It was like in the bot side, like right in like the tri brush, right above the bot tower.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just in there, had
Yeah.
no vision around him. So he just gets his entire like CLG just kind of collapse in on him from like different directions, and then he has to retreat out. He still ends up getting freaking. He ends up getting him. He ends up getting himself and Big killed because he's
Yep.
trying to regroup with the rest of his team.
Poor
But
Big.
like kudos to Optic. They actually like this was like around the time where they killed them both, and then CLG rushed and they end up getting the Drake, go for the Infernal Drake after that, and then but then Optic say, okay, no, let's go rush, and they rush Baron like while CLG is resetting to go for Infernal, and apparently Dokla was the one that called for that.
Was it
And I'm like,
really?
okay, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Because everyone else on this team was like, no, we can't do this. Like they were going to go
Yeah.
try to contest Infernal, and they just snuck Baron for it.
Yep.
So they actually had some good plays, but then you had on again getting
Getting
caught.
caught.
He tried to invade on the red buff and just got killed. He literally pulled his Ven. It's just it feels a lot of there were some good plays from Optic in this game, even some just generally good calls, but it felt like they were just way too hesitant to try anything. Like they were either getting caught out and they felt punished for it. They didn't have nearly enough vision set up to try to make plays. And then it's like they didn't recognize like, oh, if we don't try anything on this, they have Azir and Sivir
and they're
and are
we're
just
gonna
gonna
lose.
yeah, they're just gonna freaking just kill. They're
Outscale
just gonna
us
kill
and
us all.
lose.
They're just gonna kill us all. Um,
But
but
yeah,
but in the end, it was a winnable game. But it just feels like so many different times, like it was just individual mistakes, misreading on how to play out the game, and even though the game, even despite that, was winnable, but it just made too many mistakes. Also, apparently, this was not the first time a team got 4 Barons in a single playoff game and didn't win.
in a single bit. I know about the SKT game with 6 Barons and
Yeah,
5 Elders.
well, that
That's a special
was
game.
against Junior, wasn't it?
Yep, that's a special game that will have
Well, this had
every record in
this
the book.
yeah this one was summer 2014. It was Dignitas versus TSM.
Makes sense that Dignitas is involved.
Yeah, ironically, it was Dignitas versus TSM when we just had Clutch versus TSM.
Yeah, we're.
Also, and it was summer.
Hmm.
And of course it was Dignitas. They got 4 Barons and
Course,
still lost.
of course, it was.
The Dignitas Baron, even when you get it, you lose.
Hmm. And
But oh
yeah,
god,
let's talk game
yeah,
number two.
I'm sure we can go on about this, but I've had my say.
Yeah,
It gets. I would say it gets better optic, but I don't know.
it didn't.
That was like it was both their best and worst game
Oh
this whole
yeah, yeah.
series.
Because I mean, even honestly, like you, said, I think it was their best game as well. Because the rest of them, they started out early with a good kill
Hmm.
on with the Draven for Arrow, which I did like the Draven pick because Arrow's Draven's pretty nice. But the Camille for Ruin just absolutely destroyed Dokla. They got Dokla's
Yeah.
Aatrox as well, but the
Yep.
Camille counter just worked so
Yep.
well into it.
I actually made a quick note of that too. It was I said smart move and pickman from GLG. They let them bait. They actually
They
baited
baited
CLG,
the
baited opted to get the H
yep,
pick on blue side, and they just got 2 high priority picks with Azir Sejuani,
yep.
and then and still got Camille as a counter.
Yeah. Yep. And they also just pretty much, even though they gave that first blood in that early dragon, just immediately winning that one fight right at about 10 minutes with
In
getting
the mid
three
lane.
for, in the mid lane, getting 3 for 1. Of course, it's the mid lane. All the fights in NA are in the mid lane.
Well, to be fair, this started in the river.
It
Like
did.
I'll say
It did.
that.
You're right.
It actually was a good catch onto Optic because like Optic actually caught Ruin in transition. Like he was mid, like he was roaming down,
Yep.
like he was gonna protect against a gank, but then he just got caught and died.
Hmm.
But then but you had Big who had already roamed up. Biofos was already roaming up, and now you talk about okay, when I have 2 melees and a Morgana, and now we're stuck against the Zyra with ultimate.
Yep. And
It was
Zyra
very bad.
just instant pop from
Though I do have to question exactly they were all there. When you have a bot side that's winning by that much, when you have Arrow who actually punished the Zyra lane really
Hmm.
well, because it's like okay, we Zyra because can shred the Morgana shield and she can kind of just do and she can poke him from range if when the shield is down and but if she's ever caught out, she could just get killed immediately by Arrow by Draven.
Yeah. By
They
one
never
time.
really play. They never play around it. Like
Nope.
they keep trying to make plays around top to try to stem the bleeding from Dokla's lane, and they keep losing out on that. Like Arrow, like they get a pick, then they lose somewhere else, then he cut back, and Arrow's still like kind of winning the lane. He gets the turret and all the plates and all this other stuff, and but it never felt like he was ever able to really get going. And the longer and longer the game went,
Yeah, you had
he's still a
Varus and
Draven.
yeah, he falls off.
He's
Draven
still
falls off.
yeah. He's talking about and they actually he was like a bloodthirster Draven, and Camille just built executioner like
Yep, stop that healing right away.
versus versus Aatrox, Trundle, Silas,
Draven.
and
Yep.
Draven with bloodthirst.
Technically, doesn't Morgana heal off for W or something like that? Isn't
I
there
think
a
she.
little bit
I
that?
don't know if they changed that. I don't know if they changed that with the rework or not.
Yeah,
But I know
so there was
did.
some.
She used to have she used to have
Tiny bit, not
yeah.
not
She used
anything big.
yeah, not like it was not lifesteal. I can never remember what the other one was
Spell
called.
vamp.
Yeah, spell vamp. She used to have spell vamp. But yeah, the other issue with this team was kind of like what we mentioned with the
Long
team
range.
Demcom from game 2 in that series was a
Long
lot of short range people
range. Into a
versus
zero.
a
Into
lot of
Varus.
AoE.
Yep, lots
Like we're
of. Oh.
talking about a Zyra root, Zyra strangle, Zyra ult, Varus ult, Azir,
Mm,
even like a Sejuani, even like the
alt. Yep.
Sejuani slow field.
Yep. You,
Yeah,
you don't got
just
enough room to maneuver. And this game I
so.
thought was pretty much, even though they started out decently okay, after that
Mhm.
CLG just took full control. They took full control of the series.
Yeah, they actually had a good play. Like starting off this is like again Optic this series. Optic had a good play in mid where they kind of held off held off a bit. Sejuani, I think they went for the Sejuani ult. They actually zoned Biofrost away from the team, and Crown just like flashed on him and killed him off on the side. So now it's like, okay, now we have a 5v4. And it's like, okay, we can, oh, we might actually be able to dive this. Mick actually hits a root onto Stixay's Varus, and Dokka like immediately ults on Aatrox, and he goes right in. And but it feels like the entire team was just way off in execution. Like you had Arrow, he was ulting Ruin on the side. No one else looked like they were going in. Like by the time Crown tried to go in on them, Azir just ulted everyone backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like so no one could really get in. Stixay still lived, and then Azir was just like AoEing them all down, and then Camille came in for the cleanup, and from there it just kind of went off the rails. And then they just had a 4-1 where their 4-man group, and then this is like attack speed Varus. This isn't lethality
This
Varus,
is my
so like
favorite type of Varus.
you had a lot of DPS in this fight.
Yeah.
And then Camille was just like Camille being able to come in for like surprise cleanup or being able to force an engage, can like combos really well with the Sejuani as well. And then being able to give them a 4-1 option against an Aatrox who literally cannot answer her no matter what.
Yeah.
CLG, I feel like they actually had like Draft Kingdom this game. I feel like Optic, they kind of got baited a little bit and then never really picked anything that could actively work. A win condition with the Draven lane, but they did not play nearly enough, and top line could not hold up nearly enough against the Camille.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it was a. Oh, crap. I think that they just got outmatched completely by CLG, and
Yeah,
even in game number 3 as well, was
yeah.
just completely outmatched the whole game. This game was
This was
100% control.
CLG were slowly just ramping their costs.
Yeah, yeah.
Every got was just it just felt like it was better and better in terms of the style that they want to run. And apparently, a player on his team that play a unique champion every game
Mm-hmm.
because he played Azir twice.
Yep. He was the only one.
Everyone
Everyone else played
everyone else
completely
played
different.
something different. But
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about like you want to talk about well like Optics comp in this example is not even bad, but it's the idea that they took like the Zaya first round. They took Silas, so Silas is a good pick, and you know Wiggly's good on Silas. He showed that even before Silas got buffed for the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And then they basically just say, okay, take Zaya, but they don't take like Rakan immediately. CLG just say, okay, Caitlyn Morgana.
Caitlyn Morgana is just so
Yeah,
disgusting. And
yeah,
Stix's
okay,
Caitlyn as well.
exactly. So it's like, okay, now we have a AD carry that just kind of not pokes Zaya, so Zaya can't really do anything, and we have Morgana, so you can't pick her lane partner.
Mm-hmm.
So or else we'll just smack you. If you
Yep.
can't, it basically CLG kind of just like threw down the gauntlet in the same way that C9 did against them.
Yeah, and
Where it's like,
and Optic, which is I felt like they were just out of it by this point. Like they were so tilted from
oh
game
yeah,
one still, and even game
and
two as
yeah,
well. This
yeah,
game,
this one was just
this game
just
was
rough.
this one just
You
straight pretty
you
much
want to
ate up
talk
the whole
about
game.
some like you want to talk about the ultimate siege comp? It's literally okay. We have Poppy frontline, Poppy frontline to zone, and then we're just gonna have Silas who can and Silas, Syndra, and Morgana who all can just like casually maybe like
CC
throw out like
someone, yep.
yeah, Silas ultimate. Silas can take like maybe a short ultimate and throw something out. He can kind of half clear the wave safely, and then just throw a Syndra stun or a Morgana root. And if they ever get hit, Caitlyn, they just all just immediately can just kill them. That person's just dead. And you kind of just saw it this game, where no matter what happens, they're just done.
Mm-hmm.
CLG were literally up 5k goal at 23 minutes.
Yeah, the game was over.
They had an inhib turret at
They,
19
they were
minutes.
they were 7K gold at 19 minutes. Like
Yeah, it was nuts.
yeah, and that
Like
was
I think that, but the thing is, that was after like Optic actually managed to find some good dives. Like they actually had PoE bot lane, and then they
Stixie.
dove 6A alone in top lane, and then PoE tried to save him, and they just killed him too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is after like Optic actually found good picks. Like they actually roamed around and tried to
But
help stem the
it
bleeding.
was a
And
little
then
too late though.
okay, exactly.
Like
So
it wasn't enough.
yeah, it was just too much. Like kind of the nail in the coffin was just them sieging bot lane, and Arrow is just kind of like right, like in front and slightly to the side of his own turret. Wiggly just goes in with a Jarvan ult and just dunks him, and he just dies. And then Crown is just standing behind him, gets hit by like the Caitlyn ace in the hole. But then it's weird because it looked like the ace in the hole took like his entire health bar because he also got hit by a Syndra stun at the same time. So he just lost like 3/4 of his health bar in in less than a second, and then
Yeah.
died to Syndra ultimate. So like there go your both your carries. The game's over.
Yep.
They just
All
ran. They
gone.
just ran all the way through. CLG just ramped up more and more. It felt like they kind of had like some jitters. They had a weird draft where they only had like one engage. And kudos to Wiggly. It was his first playoff series ever. Like he played like academy playoffs in one split for Cloud9, and that
Mm-hmm.
was it. And I think they even lost. I think they lost in semifinals too. So like this, like
He's had a
he's had a
great
long
year
time coming, and he was super huge in the first game and making sure that CLG had the way in. If he isn't getting those engages
with the
onto
Rexa,
Arrow,
the Arrow.
then
Yep.
yeah, then the game's over. And
Mm-hmm.
so kudos to Biofrost because I noticed that he was tagging people with Qs, and every time that he tagged someone with Qs, Wiggly went in and they like knocked him up stunned and they died.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that's just good on them. It felt like they just kept ramping their draft up. It felt like even when in game one where they were kind of getting beat out on certain plays, they still had some really good plays. They still punished a lot of Optics mistakes. They're like Crown and Arrow were never able to get away with bad positioning against them. They held out really well. They never lost sight of how to win the game. And as much as you can blame Optic for just not closing, CLG did what they needed to do to hold off in that game. And then as the series went on, they just looked like they just got better and better. They just ramped up. Maybe you could call game one jitters for them. And if they got over game one, those jitters and looked this good, CLG looked really good going into
Yeah.
semifinals. If
Yeah.
like if game three is how they look, and the fact that they play 13 unique champions
Mm-hmm.
amongst all their players, that's a really good sign for them going
Mm-hmm.
into playoffs
Mm-hmm.
for a team that hasn't been here for a long time.
Well,
And,
with
and Bi-
oh,
oh, and Biofrost is still undefeated in best of fives.
that is true. But with that, let us go into predictions. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to do predictions quick. I just realized it's already midnight.
Oh Lord,
Yeah,
I
so
talk, I talk way too
and
much.
we gotta do
Hey.
4 series here because we won't be doing the
Oh yeah,
podcast next week. So we gotta do
I'm ready.
these quick predictions here.
All
uh,
right.
we got C9. Let's talk C9 versus CLG first.
Okay.
And
I want to
so,
hear your thoughts actually on this one because you know I'm biased.
oh, you think you're biased, huh? I think that the biggest issue with well, C9 CLG played in that tiebreaker, and C9
Yes.
stomped them completely.
Yes. It looked like game four versus Optic.
Yes, yes, yes.
It was pretty much the exact same way.
And I think that Optic, I had going into the playoffs, I believe, as the worst team going in. No, I had TSM as the worst.
Yeah.
But
I think you and I both had Optic as the bottom two,
yeah, yeah.
essentially.
We had TSM and
It,
Optic at the bottom.
and I
Of the
think even after their respective series, it's arguable that both of them could be swapped.
Yeah.
But it's pretty safe to say both of them are at that bottom.
Yes, and I think that the only reason why I had put Optic up is because before that I was completely down on Optic before week 9 where they won both their tiebreakers. I'm like, oh okay, but before that they were like 4-10 to end the year, and that's not like ending the year on a few weeks. That's 7 weeks out of a 9-week season that you went 4-10. They were only Optic was only good week 1 and week 2. The rest of the year they're pretty mediocre, you could say. Except for they had like one really good like week 7 where they went 2-0 or something, week 7 or week 8. So okay, they were good that week too. But like
They got tilted by losing to Blabber.
yeah, pretty much they were only good for the first 2 weeks if you really think about it. They were really good in those 2 weeks that it actually kept them alive enough to actually limp into playoffs.
Yeah.
But
well, to be fair, they didn't limp. They did straight up
they did,
win
they
2
did,
tiebreakers.
they did they
so
win
they definitely
that was why I
they
put them
earned
up
their
the
way.
fifth. That was
They
why I put them
earned
up
their
the
way
fifth.
in, and they technically ended the split with a 50-50 record, 10-10.
True.
So they earned their way.
They
Let's be fair. Rest in peace, 100 Thieves. Feels bad.
Oh
But
man.
that's a feels bad, man. The team that beat CLG lost to the team that got swept by CLG.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that
Ouch.
I think if you go lane by lane, back to C9 CLG, if you go lane by lane, I think Licorice dominates Ruin in the top lane.
Uh,
And
that didn't. I mean, that didn't work out the last
it
time.
didn't. It didn't the last time. I just feel like that unless his wrist is still bothering. That was around the time his wrist was bothering him, though, wasn't it?
Nope, that was after he got back.
After he got back. Okay.
Yeah, it was the last game they played before he went to Rift Rivals, which is like when when the wrist issues really started to flare up.
Hmm.
They actually played CLG before that.
Okay.
That was like the first time they played and they won.
Got
Or
it.
no, yeah, that was the time they won. It was the second time around was where Kumo had already been subbed out again, and that was when he played Malphite.
Yeah, I remember that. Maybe it's
That
a
was fun.
Malphite issue. No,
Maybe.
that was that was the sloppy. That team comp could get 1-3-1 like crazy.
Yeah.
I'm basically. I think that Sven is going to neutralize Wiggly a ton. That's my biggest issue with CLG into C9. I think Sven got first all first team jungler, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It was Team
Team
Liquid
Liquid
plus.
and Sven. And Nick Smithy got team 2, I'm assuming.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And people were already memeing about about looking at the first team All Pro saying, "Well, that's Team Liquid's roster for next year." No. I will say, quick note. It was awesome seeing that Niski actually almost beat Jensen in
Yeah,
first team All
I
Pro
saw
mid.
that.
He
Niski's had
missed
a
it by I
great
think
year.
yeah, he missed it by like 7 points.
Yeah. Which is my next point is I think
Yep.
Niski is better than Power of Evil, which is one of the main spots on CLG, main carries, I would say. I think
I will say, I think Power of Evil's Azir is better than Niski's slightly.
that is true. That is true. But
Power of Evil on some of these control mages is actually kind of nuts.
oh yeah, yeah. There's no. Did Power of Evil get third?
He has a much better grasp. I think if you put Niski like on a
Who
Kiana
is
pick or
third
something, then
team?
yeah, he'll pop off.
Who was third team mid laner?
13, Bjergsen.
Don't agree with that one at all.
Yeah,
That's name
but I mean,
recognition.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think Crown. I think Crown was fourth team technically. He was like the fourth place, and he by 1 point.
Yeah, I'd put Power of Evil over both of them, to be honest. But I would put yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't even have
that's
Bjergsen in my
yeah.
top six
I don't know
mid
about all that.
laners about this year, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean to be fair, Wiggly was also third team All Pro,
Yeah, yeah. Wiggly
so that was
absolutely
pretty
deserved
cool.
that one too.
And Ruin was third team top. Zazel was third team support though.
Don't agree with either of those.
You don't agree with Zazel's third team
No,
support?
I do not.
Well, I mean he lost to Bio and Core.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean those are both pretty fair.
those ones are fair. I don't think Zazel's top 3 is what I'm saying. This split,
Uh,
I
I
think
don't know who you would put above him though.
well, clearly big. First off, but
I don't.
my
I
man
feel like
big.
Vulcan would probably be
Vulcan,
probably could have
even
taken that.
Smoothie. I'd put Smoothie over.
Yeah, those are all fair. I
Yeah,
think support pool after core is kind of a toss up a
yeah,
little bit.
that is also.
I do think that I think that
Core
the,
is here. Everyone else is here.
yeah, which is sad because for a while Zazel was kind of like that
Oh yeah,
one guy.
Zazel was
actually
really.
kind of head to head with him.
I'm just saying
I
their
feel like
Cloud Nine's bot lane has been
yeah,
their biggest weakness this year.
but yeah, and I feel like that's kind of the big thing too. I mean, that's something you can definitely argue with the CLG with the CLG bot lane. Like their bot lane is actually really good. Like even in the first game where like CLG had their worst start,
Mhm.
the bot lane really clutched it out for them. Like they
That
completely
that's their
they
only
completely
advantage, I would say, against
yeah
C9.
they completely ganked like just goofed on their optics 3-man dive. Like they missed everything and they dodged out. And then you had in game 3 where you had Meteos try the same thing. He tried to go in on the Jarvan, and Biofrost, the good guy that he is, he didn't flash the Jarvan EQ. He stayed right there in melee range to point blank root him. He point blank rooted him,
Yep.
and then 6 put on the trap and just autoed and killed him.
Yep.
So they turned a 3-man dive into a kill,
Into a
and then
kill instantly.
I think Big flashed for ignite and killed Bio, but
Yeah, because he's a god. Had to do
it's
everything
limit testing.
himself.
But yeah,
But,
I do see what you mean too. But I do want to say for CLG's favor especially is that I think CLG as a whole they can be prone sometimes to overlooking maybe a few things in draft. I kind of feel like that's what happened like the C9 tiebreaker game
mhm.
where C9 kind of just like kind of pulled a CLG in the game three versus Optic, where they just kind of draft kingdom them
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
badly.
I think so. Yeah, I think C9 has even advantage in coaching, like you said there. I think C9 has advantage in
Yeah,
coaching. I think they have the advantage in top lane. I think they have the advantage in jungle and in
yeah.
mid lane. The only where they don't have the advantage is bot lane, and I don't think it's by a whole ton. Like it's not like this huge gap in bot lane difference, but it's
And if the tiebreaker is anything to go by, all it takes is a really good matchup and a decent draft strategy, and Cloud9 can just run it all the way through the
yeah, yeah.
lane.
So with that, I guess I could actually make my prediction. I have C9.
Yeah.
I was thinking a 3-0, but I'm gonna give CLG at least one win. But I
Okay.
think it's gonna be pretty lopsided in C9's favor.
Okay. I'm gonna give you my argument now because I'll say right now I'm actually really high on CLG. I think that even the tiebreaker game, like as good as it, awesome as it was to see C9 win that match in super decisive fashion, I feel like it's just a symptom of what's been happening with both of these teams when they play each other. Because a lot of people tend to forget, but the first time they played around was almost an exact replica of the third time they played, and even the second time just reversed.
Yes, it's a
Where
blowout
it
either
was,
way.
yeah, yeah, but like the teams just sort of blew each other out. It seemed like as soon as they got an advantage, like one team was actually really good in their team play and really decisive that they were able to just control the game and close it out. Like people talk about the second game being like, oh, it's a 1-3-1 monstrosity and C9 could never answer. But that was the same thing that happened in the first game, where they picked two split pushers and then just 3-1 CLG all the way into their base and just out macro them right before Rift Rivals, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why everyone was super hyped for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time around, it was the same sort of thing. They had a good game plan, and C9 came out with the Talia pick. So like you're talking about two teams with really deep champion pools, a lot of options, a lot of looks they can show with the teams. Um, and like CLG even they learn because when they drafted Caitlyn Morgana versus Optic, they one of their bans in the first ban phase, Talia. They didn't want Optic having a roam option that could let
Yeah.
them shut down the bot lane and then make it so that the Caitlyn that they try to draft entirely for is useless. So they shown that they can adapt really well. But I feel like the series, the easiest is like, oh, it's gonna be a 3-2. It's a really close series. I think these teams, but I think it's possible with just the way they play that you have a team can just kind of take a game, get a good lead, and then they can just kind of snowball it to death.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they get like an optic style game, one of
Pick a
those
3-0.
teams just beat the other
Pick a 3-0.
immediately with
I
that type of
wanted to. I
advantage.
wanted to. You do it.
Um, but here's my reasoning, and I think these teams the other thing just individual play is their team play because there's like you can maybe point at like okay here's like a disadvantage a bit for like oh Niski he could go a little hyphy sometimes. Maybe Sven can kind of get a little kind of have a bad read on map state sometimes, and he'll try to push in the jungle when he has no priority from his lanes, and
Sounds
maybe
like a
sometimes the
Sven
bot
thing to
lane
do.
can kind of underperform a little bit, and like on the other hand, they can have like really pop off moments. CLG like okay, you have these like maybe Bruin will have a pop off game on Camille and he just dances on everybody. Same thing with like Wiggly, like when he styled on TSM with Silas, and like everyone else, they can kind of just be just generally really solid, really good players, play their role, know what to do. And I think the biggest trait about CLG is that they play really well as a team. They're very good and a very smart team. I feel like if Clutch is like the smart, cohesive team fighting team, CLG is the smart, cohesive macro team. And I think that's a huge advantage. And they're coming in with momentum.
You're gonna pick
A first
CLG
playoff
over
series
C9.
where they won 3-0. They came back, they had a huge they came back and won and proceeded to just wipe the rest of the series. Whatever jitters you may have had for this team, you're talking about Wiggly, Power of Evil, Ruin. None of these players have ever played in NA playoffs before.
Mm-hmm.
6A and Bio have, and it's been
Long
probably
time.
years since either of them have played. And Bio's never done it on CLG. So like a lot of jitters coming out, C9 they might be coming in cold into this series as well. Like they may come in there. All it takes is like one bad series, one bad scrim practice, and I feel like NC9 can come in this with like negative momentum. They'll come in like a TL summer 2019 series, 2018 series, where they come in like Impact gets Scion 3 games in a row. They just completely stomp the game. Like C9 have completely like a bad read on the meta. They look like they have no answers. They don't adapt well. As much as Reaper may have really good coaching and he can have really good game plans, he's also had some brain scratching ones.
Mhm.
I also think that the 7-man roster that they've kind of been prepping and what looked like a good weapon for them, considering like the last week they played Sven deftly, then they played Blabber sneaky, and then Sven and sneaky versus CLG.
Mhm.
I feel like that's not even going to be a viable one because C9 Academy just got smacked 3-1 versus 100 Thieves Academy in the semifinals of
Hey
Academy
man,
playoffs.
hey man, someday was on
That's
that team.
Blabber especially looked really really bad. He was getting he was kind of getting just smacked around. Definitely looked kind of lost. Blabber almost looked exposed, and he was straight up pulling like Sven plays where he had no team around. He was actually greeting for the enemy red buff and then just died and then gave up Baron for free to the enemy team. So it's one of the ones where now you're talking about a strategy that this team probably could have been practicing for. And if C9 Academy was not doing so well, and that's one of their big scrim partners, that could be a detriment to them. And I actually kind of have to go with the memes here
Mhm.
because prediction is actually CLG 3-2.
Really? Because
I think
that's
I think
interesting to me.
no, I want you to hear me out. Not because the meme is actually kind of massive. Because if this happens, C9 and CLG's head to head for the entire year will be exactly even. They would have been 1-1 in spring.
Yeah,
They were
they'll
one and
go on
one
full.
regular season, and then C9 got the tiebreaker, so they'd be up 2-1.
Mhm.
Then if C9 won two more games in this split, they have 5 wins, and then CLG are coming in with 2 wins
Yeah,
over
so
the
they
year,
get
and then
five
get
as
three,
well.
so they'd be 5-5.
Interesting. We are
And then
on
C9
completely different
losing this
planets on
game means
CLG.
that for the second split in a row, they don't play Team Liquid in playoffs.
That's true.
And then they end the split the season 2-2 versus Team Liquid even.
Going for that even streak.
I feel like
So
if
what?
there's ever a way for, I feel like it's gonna be a continuation of what happened in spring, sadly, where I do believe that C9, like I said, I feel like C9 could easily 3-0 the series, but on the hand, I could also see CLG 3-0ing the series. I could see it going C9 dominate the first two series, but then CLG show that poise that they showed here, and then they just adapt, they respond, and they end up reverse sweeping the rest of the series like we saw TSM do to C9.
Interesting.
And then when C9 went, even though they were up 2-0, they have every right to win the third game versus TSM, but they just couldn't put it away, and then the rest of the series never recovered.
So like,
And I think they won't be able. I think if that happens, I think it's possible that if they drop 0-2 to CLG sweep the series. I don't see C9 actually having the resiliency in a best of five right now, what we've seen, to be able to actually respond and turn it back around. And I think if C9 go 2 up on the series, maybe they can close out 3-0. But I actually give CLG a much better chance of reverse sweeping than I do C9, and
wow.
that's actually kind of sad to say.
We're on completely different planets
So
with
my
CLG because
prediction
I
is
think Clutch.
actually
I think
CLG
Clutch is better than
3-2.
CLG. I'm gonna come out and say it. I think Clutch is the scarier team than CLG is right now, in my opinion. Like I don't believe in CLG at all, and that's like I think they played against Optic well, but I don't. I think Optics are really bad and for playoff wise, and I think like let's just go on to Team Liquid versus Clutch Gaming. I was kind of worried that Team Liquid picked the wrong team when this happened. I think Clutch Game. Oh, he disconnected from from Discord. You back? Hello, hello. Oh, I'll recall you. Oh, recall him. Enter Discord server. Back. You are okay. So while that's going on, I'll talk briefly about Team Liquid versus Clutch Gaming. I think that Team Liquid, I'm a little worried that they picked the wrong. Let me just call him again. Let's see if that will work. He's not answering. Did he answer at the last second there? He did. NA production at its finest. Hello? Hello, 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 Ryan. Yeah, I can't hear you at all if you're talking.
Hello, can you hear
Oh,
me?
now I can. Now I can.
Okay. I don't know when I started cutting out or when you started cutting out, but I know there's a long time where there was just silence. I guess
Yeah.
Discord just couldn't handle the spiciness of that bit.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you hear anything I said at the after your pick? Pretty much. Yes. No. Or did you disconnect again?
Hello?
And
Oh, hello?
you're disconnecting. Go to the other server. We're gonna drop the call and go to the podcasting room.
Yeah, that's trying to go before then I started getting called again.
Got it. Alrighty. Technical difficulties. But yeah, what's I think Team Liquid. I'm worried about Clutch much more. Hello. Does it work now? You good? Is maybe your Discord?
In a production.
NA production at its finest. But as I was saying before you disconnected,
Yes.
completely different opinions about CLG. I think Clutch Gaming is better than CLG, and I was actually worried that Team Liquid picked the wrong team here because
Mm.
I think on Clutch is coming in with super momentum. I think they have the much better bot lane at the moment than CLG. I'm more scared of Huni than I am of Ruin for just that wild card factor. He's done.
Mm.
He's way better right now. We'll give the advantage completely to over. Lyra's playing really well right now, but I still give it Wiggly over Lyra and Power Evil with Monte. But I just think that the it's such more of a bot lane focus at the moment in the whole like league, the meta as well, that that really worries me. But there's also still that little snowball up top that can really like Huni's Rumble scares me a lot, and just like Cody Sun is just on a roll at the moment. So I
Mm.
when Team Liquid was like had the pick, I was actually thinking like maybe you just take CLG. Maybe they are the because I think you could beat. I think if it was Team Liquid versus CLG for predictions, I'd pick Team Liquid 3-0, like no question. Where actually against Clutch Gaming, I'm picking Team Liquid to beat them 3-1. But I can see this team getting and like you said, CLG doesn't strike me as a fast team at all, no whatsoever. The only way to beat Team Liquid is to hit them hard and hit them fast. Like that's what CLG actually did when they beat Team Liquid with the Caitlyn
Mm.
Morgana, and I don't think that'll happen. I don't think no team should give Sticks Ace Caitlyn Morgana. I don't think that will happen. But if they're smart, but I really think that Clutch Gaming scares me as a Liquid fan a lot more so than even CLG does, personally. So,
I agree with a lot of that, with a lot of what you just said.
mhm.
I feel like I actually had Team Liquid winning 3-1 as well. I'm willing to give Clutch a game. I wouldn't be surprised if Clutch win, like in like almost classic TSM style, if Clutch win the first game and Team Liquid adapt and just win the next three.
That could easily
I
happen
th-
too.
and I feel like if CLG played Team Liquid, I feel like Team Liquid are just a better CLG, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, and I feel like, and I would be comfortable picking 3-0. Maybe they get a game if Team Liquid like decides to flood and let them pick something, and then they kind of get beat, like they did when Stixay played Caitlyn lane
Mm-hmm.
versus
No one should
Double
give
Lift.
Sticks a Kaylin.
Yeah, that's just or pick it. Like if
Yeah,
I bet if Double Lift picked Caitlyn, then they just run that lane.
yeah, they run that
Um,
line completely.
the other, the one thing I will say is that I think Clutch is a better matchup into Team Liquid than CLG is. But I think
Maybe I'm looking through with a Team Liquid bias because I
no, and that's
that's how
no,
I usually look
that's
for
fair. I
games.
mean that's kind of the whole point of the prediction. That's the two teams playing each other.
Yeah.
I feel like the one with like I said, I feel like both of those teams they're both really good and they look really good right now as especially in terms of team play and their cohesion as a team. I think the main takeaway with CLG and Clutch. Beyond that, I think Clutch has more higher potential pop off moments, and they're what I would call a better matchup. Um, at the same time, I think that because I mean, like they play a style like almost like an RNG style. Like I think you and we talked about this on the LPL cast when I
Yes.
was in chat. Like they're like because they play a very much like the mid and top help enable the AD carry to make plays and to carry
Mm-hmm.
really well. And I feel like if there's any team that is like if there's a team that's a better team Liquid, it's RNG.
Yes. Absolutely.
And been the point for a long time, and I think that's so Clutch has that sort of style to play the way. But I feel like on the other hand, the big takeaway with Clutch is I think they're a very draft dependent team.
That is true.
I think if you give them like the flex lane assassins, like if you did like a Kali and with like a Sejuani jungle, like oh wow, that's a great team. Give them a team fight AD carry and a tank support, and now Clutch is set up. Or give them like a big team fight ultimates, like oh Rumble Kiana, and then like a jungle Silas, like they did in the series, and a team fight AD carry and a tank support. But if you're able to take that away enough from Clutch, like we saw in Game 3 versus TSM, and they play something like the Azir top and you don't have nearly as much to work with, I think it's possible to really punish the team as a time. I feel like they are benefit a lot from draft. I think we saw it a lot when they stabilized their draft a bit more. They found their identity with the coaching change. That's sort of been ramping up into this point. But I think Team Liquid can still punish that, and I think Cloud9, if they played Clutch, they could punish that. They would
Mm-hmm.
have the personnel where you're talking about PoE versus Niski. Okay, well here's Demonte versus Niski. You can't just if you're blue side for C9, you could take the Kiana from Demonte because Niski has shown he can carry on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like maybe that's not something Jensen will play. So maybe that's something you could take away from that. So C9 would actually kind of have that advantage where maybe Clutch has to say, oh, well, we can't just bank on a Kiana pick because Niski could play it. And then C9 could just ban Rumble and ban GP.
Yeah. And
And then let's
ban
see what
Honey.
Huni can do now.
Yeah. Now the issue is you can't. The GP situation is
Yeah.
very problematic for Clutch.
Yeah.
You leave the
Yep.
GP open and you don't pick
Exactly.
it. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a
And then
free win in the Team Liquid.
and same thing with like an Akali. Like
Mhm.
you were talking about like because like Huni even had like a really good Akali game. He also had a good Nico game. And I think Jensen and Impact could play those champions
Impact's
respectively.
Nico is so good.
Yeah, that was say like I think Impact's Nico might be a little bit better than Jensen's, but I think Jensen's Akali might be better than Impact's.
Yep. Yep.
But it's like they could challenge that. And I think like if you look at CLG, there's not like you can't like target ban somebody. Like
Mhm.
you're like and you can't even, and you have to be careful in your draft. Like you can't just blind pick Aatrox.
Yeah,
And
because they're gonna pull out.
C9 had been known to do that.
That is true. So it's
They would blind
actually,
yeah,
you,
and then Ruin because Ruin could pop out with a freaking Camille pick and then surprise you, or he can pick a lot of things and he can actually punish a lane because this guy has the highest amount of solo kills I think in the entire league, at least among top laners.
yeah,
And I also think he has the highest amount of solo deaths
yeah.
among top
He's
laners. So
very.
he's willing. He can go for it. He's going to go for fights, and he
Yes.
will do it if you give
Which
him the
is
if you
what
give
I
him the
want to
room.
see Svenskeren be up there, up
Mhm.
top for that. So it's no longer a solo kill or a solo death, but he's going to be playing aggressive into those situations. And Camille is a
Mhm.
champion you can absolutely punish early because once she goes in, she really can't get out. Because
Yeah,
if she hook shots in, that is, like it's very difficult for
that'd
her
be
to
the
get
one
out.
time I'd love to see them see like if C9 were kind of cool and clever. I think a way to do that is just okay, we're gonna pick Aatrox, and then okay, oh look, there's the Camille pick. Okay, surprise, we're flexing Aatrox mid. Here's a Malphite top. That because that's you want to talk about a
Malphite into
lane
Camille.
that Malphite can actually punish. Jace
Camille.
isn't it?
Yeah, Jace.
Yeah,
I don't like
'cause-
facing Jace as a Malphite player.
yeah, because Jace
He
could just
pokes
be
you.
ranged.
Yeah, he
He could
pokes
just
you.
be ranged, and he could just build team fight and then just like run you over for the rest of the game.
Mhm.
He could just build Last Whisper, so he punishes you for building armor, which is what you
Mhm.
want to do. But Camille has to hook shot in.
Yep.
She has to jump in with her Qs, with her Ws and everything. She has to actually go in on you.
And then
And if
when you
you're a
go in,
Malphite and you could
boom.
pull the wave to your side and I think this is 915, so this is like reworked Malphite.
Yeah, this is a stronger Malphite.
So this is like Malphite with Titanic Hydra on his, I think it's W.
That
So
guy's
if
right.
Camille ever, yeah, if Camille ever tries to go in, like that's the way to punish it. Like you thought like like Ruin going in on Jace against the Malphite and getting solo killed. Well, that's how the Camille matchup plays all the time. But that's official. That's one of those things where would you see it happen? Is Niski still practiced on like new Aatrox? Like would they be willing to pull that out? Maybe CLG have a different answer. Would they still execute on it? And that's a lot, and that's kind of like a lot of coin flippy stuff that like I can almost imagine like CLG are like a consistency team. And maybe like week 9 C9 was just like, oh, it's a pop off week for C9. They haven't had a 2-0, 3-0 week yet. So here it is.
Oh,
But I
but
I would love to see C9 do it, but it's just one of those things where I just can't shake the feeling that I feel like that's just what's going to happen.
yeah,
C9 could easily come in cold into the series, and then CLG have already been on the back foot in a playoff series with a bunch of people who aren't used to playoff situations, and they still came out. So, and I think with the TL game, you pretty much hit all the points that I wanted to. Like I said, I
I'm
think
glad
Team
I got my
Liquid.
team down.
Yeah, I feel like Team Liquid. They maybe get a good punch in. Maybe even Clutch takes two. Like that'd be the only, but that'd be the most I see. I feel like anything but I feel like the team fight power that Clutch has, I think TL can match it. I feel like
Mhm.
their synergy is going to be a much higher level than TSM's were, especially with the way their roster's been going.
Yeah, they beat TSM with glacials.
So it's one of the one. It's so like I said, it's not one. It's one of those things where I would not be surprised if both semifinal matches end in 3-0s.
Yeah.
It could easily go both ways, or both matches could go full 5 games. It depends on how like certain teams show up. Maybe Clutch keeps ramping, or maybe Clutch get exposed. Maybe TL gets caught with their pants down, or maybe they're just really good. Same thing with Cloud9. Maybe they come in cold during the week, or maybe they're as hot as they were in week 9. So
Well,
it's hard. Like I said, I think it is hard to tell just because like they face the bottom 2 playoff teams per our power
yeah,
rankings.
yeah, that exactly. I think that's
So it's hard. It's a
it's
hard to
hard to
read.
see
So
because now
we
they're
kind of
facing the top two teams.
yeah. It's kind of just we kind of just have to go by the eye test,
Yeah.
just from what we've seen, and we haven't seen anything from Cloud9 and Team Liquid in almost 2 weeks now.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
last time we saw Team Liquid, they were playing the
Glacial.
Glacial Comp
They're playing TFT.
and beating TSM.
Dominating. It wasn't just
And
beating; they destroyed them that game. Which
yeah,
was
and
the
Cloud
scary
Nine were
thing.
playing. Yeah, and Cloud Nine were playing 3 different rosters,
Yeah.
and we don't even and we doubt that it's even going to be a thing
Mhm.
now with how friggin' playoffs went. But hey, who knows? Maybe Cloud Nine were just paying back 100 Thieves for getting them the buy.
Mhm. Uh,
But
yeah.
anyway, I think that
Well,
does lead us into the third place.
yeah. Well, we gotta do these ones quickly. 12:30
Oh no,
to
oh
third
no, we
place
kind of
because
talked. I think
oh
we
yeah,
talked enough about the
yeah,
both teams to kind of get an idea of what we
yeah.
mean.
So
So for you,
I have CLG versus Clutch Gaming, and
CG versus CLG,
yeah, and
who gets the L?
the amount of times I would screw that up are insane.
Yeah,
Tough, I think, but I'm going to give it to CLG because I think Clutch Gaming, even though like I said there, I consider them the better
mm,
team. I think that once if they lose to Team Liquid, that momentum that is carrying them right now gets shattered, and I think that
yeah,
will really hurt them, and they'll go
yeah.
back to the kind of mediocre team after the fact. In
And I
CLG,
and just and
CLG like
tagging in
3-1.
on that. I think CLG is smart enough that if Team Liquid shows even anything to knock them out of
Yeah.
semifinals, I think CLG just kind of ramps on that, and
Yes.
they could probably even win 3-0. But
Mhm.
like in
Oh
that,
yeah, screw it. I'll give it 3-0. Screw it.
yeah,
I
because
think
one of the
Clutch
things where
Gaming will be
like
done if
yeah,
they
if
lose.
that was the scenario that happened, I would probably take CLG 3-0.
Yeah.
I would think as good as like Clutch may look good, but they
And that
probably just
sounds
get beat.
really weird in the sense that I just said Clutch is
Yeah,
better
I
than
think it would be a
CLG,
close
but
3-0, but yeah,
yeah,
maybe a
I
3-1.
think
But
I
I
think
feel
it's because I look at the league through Team Liquid's eye, like as
yeah,
like a Team Liquid fan. I look at the league as who can
yeah,
beat us, and I'm like, okay, this team scares me more than this team right now that can
yeah.
beat Liquid. Doesn't mean that they can beat other teams.
Oh, I know the feeling. I mean, I'm a Cloud9 fan. I see it the same way. You
Yep.
hear it in how I talk, but
Hmm.
I mean, but we haven't won a title in over 5 years. So,
Yeah. So who do
but
you have between Cloud9 and
for
Clutch Gaming?
yeah, yeah, for mine, I have Cloud9.
Yeah.
I think that as close as that is, I think they knuckled down after losing that sort of series. And then Clutch losing the way, since I have them losing as well, I kind of go along with you. I think like, okay, no, we can expose this. We could work around this draft. We're gonna knuckle down. We gotta make worlds,
Yes.
and
Yes.
which is
The
gonna
game,
lead.
especially for
Which is
you, that game means a lot to C9, where it
yeah,
means absolutely nothing for Clutch Gaming.
yeah, because if C9 lose that that means they are automatically in the gauntlet, and they're actually behind TSM in seeding,
Yes.
which is rough.
Which is
Um,
super rough.
but this does lead me into my finals prediction because I know you have Liquid and C9,
Yes.
the epic rematch, and
Yep.
we'll get to that because I know I'll love to talk about my team a little bit, even though I didn't pick them because I'm going for the memes where Cloud9 are going
To third.
Cloud9 are have go into Worlds with a perfectly even record against the other top two
Yep.
teams in the league.
So who you got between
And
CLG and
never
Team
have
Liquid?
and never playing Team Liquid. I think Team Liquid actually beat CLG 3-0.
Woo, four
I think
championships in a row.
yeah, I think that this is
3-0. 3-0. I just realized that part.
yeah,
Woo. I
I
agree.
think that it's I think that Liquid in classic Liquid style, they drop a game in semis and then they just ramp all the way through the rest of the playoffs.
Like, all right,
It'll be
we're
like
trying now.
no, it'll be like summer 2018 where Cloud9 had that really close series versus TSM, and then Cloud9 win, TSM barely get knocked out, but then they go to finals, and then Team Liquid just sweep them 3-0.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing with CLG. CLG, they'll have a close fight with C9. They'll make a finals. Everything looks good. Biofrost versus Double Lift, and then they get 3-0.
I
So,
think it, especially because I think Liquid has looked superior, even though the record doesn't necessarily show it. I think just they're not playing the exact same style every time. They're playing much faster. I think MSI was ginormous help for Liquid.
yeah,
Just
I feel
in.
like that's a big deal for them.
Hmm.
But with that prediction actually, with Team Liquid winning and COG coming in second, with Cloud9 actually clutching out the bronze medal in playoffs,
Hmm.
Cloud9 would have just enough points to beat CLG in points.
Yep.
So it would be C9 and Team Liquid as the number 2 and number 1 seeds going into Worlds,
Yep.
with CLG barely
Barely.
edging out TSM as the top seed in
Yeah, so
Gauntlet.
then, which is good for NA because I think that CLG absolutely deserves CLG or Clutch.
Yeah,
Either one of those deserve
yeah,
over TSM,
yeah.
Optic, and
I wouldn't be I would be happy with either of them because we have enough blue, and even if Clutch goes, even though they're changing their colors to Dignitas colors, we would have red, white, and blue.
yeah. Hey, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, my prediction for I think that Team Liquid wins against Cloud9 as well in the finals. I don't think it's a 3-0. I think it's actually going to be very similar to Spring Split. It's going to be a 3-2 because
Do you
Cloud9.
think it's gonna be a reverse sweep?
No, I don't think he'll get to that point. But
Okay.
I think Cloud9 goes up 2-1 and then gets the 2-0 like on them after that.
Does does Jensen bring out the Echo in the last game
No, he does
for
not.
for redemption? Does he
Uh,
pull out the Echo and then gives it to Impact?
yes.
And Licorice plays Victor top, and then Impact actually wins on the pick.
Yeah. And Impact. Yeah, I just think Liquid is. If Liquid ramps up, and like I just said with MSI, you can tell just from just minor, like just watching minor details, how much this team has actually improved. Just like
Oh yeah,
just off speed, like
yeah.
game time.
They're playing the same style that they have. They haven't stopped
But they're better.
focusing bot and just having a holding top and holding mid, and then ramping for team fights to run it through to basically do what Clutch does, and just
Hmm.
using your solo lanes in your jungle to enable your bot and support to just carry really hard. And
The
They just do it really well,
Yeah,
and they're doing it a lot faster. They're more
yeah.
proactive
That's
in what
what I
they're
was gonna
trying to
say.
do.
The thing I've noticed this split
They're
from
they're the
Liquid.
better parts of they're the better parts of Clutch and CLG
Mhm.
combined into one team.
I've noticed that they no longer wait for the NA teams to make a mistake because NA, to
They
be fair,
force them to.
they force them now. They actually force the mistakes instead of just waiting for the obvious mistake to happen. They would do that. They would get the mistake. They'd win the game off of that. Easy, easy. That's how they always were winning. Now they're forcing those mistakes and they're forcing teams to make a play against them, and teams for the most part aren't doing it.
Oh man, I need to find that. I wish I need to find that tweet
Mm-hmm.
that Impact put out after they released the first team All Pros lineup because
Well,
Impact memed the hell out of Jensen getting picked as number one over Niski
I don't
because
think.
he just put out a tweet and with like I think it was just like a bunch of question marks
Mm.
and it just for like all for first team All Pro mid and and it just showed a bunch of clips from the game of Jensen getting solo killed by Niski.
To be fair, I would pick Niski as the number one mid laner.
Yeah, I feel
I
like I would love that series. I feel like the only way that could actually be better is if like if Team Liquid came in and then 3-0'd Clutch, or maybe they like one. It was like a 1-3 series where they drop one and win three, and like C9 they like 3-0 CLG, and now you're going into the finals. We're like oh shit, these teams are finally playing each other. They're C9 were 0-2 in spring versus Team Liquid and never got to play them in playoffs because they
yeah.
got reverse swept by TSM.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
like TSM almost swept Liquid, so like oh man, would C9 have been able to beat Liquid? But they never got a chance. And then now it's like oh, but then C9 they beat Liquid 2-0 this split, and
Yes.
then and then they're both coming into finals looking dominant. How who is the best?
Yeah.
And both of the teams would be guaranteed worlds.
Yep.
So it's literally a matter of just two teams
Who wins?
playing to be the best.
Yep. Yep. Well,
That'd be awesome to see as a C9 fan. I think in that scenario, pedigree wise, I'd love to see C9 win.
oh yeah.
I think,
I
but
think.
I feel like in classic C9 fashion, if they did, they would win. They would lose 3-1, so that they would still be tied with Liquid in head to head.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna say
Yeah, they would.
actually, Liquid would lose the number one spot for Worlds if they lost though. So I think that they
Oh
want
yeah.
that one
Oh,
seed.
Oh yeah, and C9 like they would love that spot. Like
Oh yeah.
not only not going as the third seed, but going as the first seed, beating Liquid, redeeming their playoff record versus Liquid since franchising, and getting a title for the first time in 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be, and with this lineup, with Licorice and Niski, Sven Skaren's redemption after leaving TSM, you're talking about Sneaky and Zazel, like getting like going over double lift and core JJ. That would be super huge for them if they could pull it out. I think like the one way they do it is if they do like what they were doing in throughout the regular season. Like you could play through mid, but I feel like the way you play through mid in order to play through bottom. So now you're shutting down everything and basically saying, okay, Impact, try to 1v9.
Yeah, I think it's
I would love to see that match, especially in those circumstances. I think that if C9 have to go a full 5 games versus CLG and the TL just like sweep clutch like we expect them to, I think TL would have enough from watching C9 in 5 games to actually sweep the series.
yeah.
Because I feel like that's the big deal. If C9 are able to come out and just like go gangbusters and just smack CLG in 3 games and not really show too much, then that can actually give them a big advantage because it means that TL have less to prep against for C9.
Mm-hmm. And I
But it's spicy.
yeah,
It's looking
it will
spicy playoff.
definitely be spicy.
Oh, and I'm gonna be off work so I can watch it.
Yeah, I will be
I
watching
can watch
live.
watch me be right.
You could maybe
Watch
see
me
me
be
in the
right, and
stands.
my entire weekend ruined.
Maybe see me in the like over through view shot or whatever.
Oh my
We'll
god!
do
What if we
this.
had our predictions backwards? Like,
Nice.
what if it's like, what if I actually, what if it's like, oh, it's gonna be clutch. What if like my predictions are backwards? It's gonna be like clutch 3-2, and then Cloud9 3-1. That would actually be hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my god! If Liquid actually lose the fourth place match,
Oh, don't say that.
if
Don't
they
say
go
that.
from first to fourth, That would be the after when they had the potential to win a fourth title, they instead get fourth place. That'd be such a cursed thing to do.
Yeah, it would be.
But
But
it would also be a very counter logic thing to do to beat to curse someone when they're cursed
yeah, I think
and make them play TSM in the gauntlet.
yeah, I think Liquid will be fine. But we gotta
Yeah.
wrap up. We got
Yes.
it's 12:45.
It's been fun, guys.
Almost 2 hour podcast. It's good though. It was a playoff podcast, so it makes sense.
Hey,
But
we only had 7 games to work with. We
listen,
still went it for 2 hours.
listen. Not our fault. It's Brian's fault. We waited 45 minutes for
I
Brian.
know. I had to talk up. Clutch. Not Clutch. God damn it, CG.
I know.
I, had
I
to,
do it all the time.
I, had
All
to,
the time.
I had to talk up CLG so much.
Yeah. So it's
I hope I
Brian's
did him
fault.
proud
Yeah,
because I'm not just doing this just for shits and giggles. I actually think CLG will probably win the series. As much as I want C9 to win, as much as I believe they can win, but I don't think they will.
Yeah,
As sad as it is to say.
I think they will. I got the faith for you. But yeah, that's gonna be the podcast. Thank you guys. It's again Brian's fault. 45 minutes. We waited for him, but before he answered me and said he's at work. But
Oh Jesus.
yeah, so thank you guys for coming to watch. We'll be doing the LCK tomorrow, and that will also have playoff predictions in it. So come watch that. Then LMS is Wednesday, which will have all of the playoff prediction. We'll go all the way through finals, and then Thursday will
Vacation.
be EU. Ooh, vacation. And I think EU will probably have playoff predictions as well. I'll have to look into the schedule for that one though. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for LCK. Good night.
Good night.